I'm working in the garden with right now. That's why they're the ones that came up.
Oh, excuse me. Go ahead. Say that again. Excuse me.
Now you know why I'm happy to talk at this time of year, because these are the things I worked with today that gave me sermons this morning.
The
carrots come up really tiny, and they're tiny plants, and I am now growing my own seeds, which I would be happy to talk to people about how to do sometime later, just not today. But I have lots of carrot seeds because they make a beautiful flower on their second year, which makes their seeds. But when you plant them, they're so tiny, they come up too close together, too many of them. And so they have to be thinned out, or else they can't grow. They won't have enough room, and they'll just choke each other out, and none of them will be big or delicious. And so we are getting to thin out of our lives those things that no longer serve us. And so maybe that's the thing someone's going to pick to write down is thinning out of my life the behaviors, the people, the media that does not serve me or others, and replace it with something that does, or leave the fertile ground so that it can, what I do want will grow larger and more magnificent. So carrots really taught me that today.
Mm-hmm. The carrots, because you were visiting with them and you're thinning them out.
Carrots.
And as you're thinning them, you're thinking belief systems or behaviors even, however that is.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's time to let go of certain things so that, you know, this can come forward. And look, the carrot, like you said, it has its own creation. It's a carrot.
And it needs a certain amount of room to grow to be its magnificence, and filling the space with too much junk or other plants or whatever does not allow it to become the full measure of its creation, which is what we all know makes our hearts throb. So I want to talk about weeding. I have to weed at least twice a week. And the clue for weeding, which is the same as thinning in some ways, is weed early, weed often.
Yes.
So the sooner you take the weeds out of your life, the easier they are to get out, because they don't have a deep root system. I can go along with a hoe and take out everything when it's little, but if I let it get a large 1 foot deep root, I have to dig it out with a shovel, and each weed then becomes huge and cumbersome. That's like our life. Weed early, weed often. Pick one today, write it down. What are you going to weed out, and what are you going to add in? The two most salient issues for the garden, even though all of it's wonderful. I can't recommend strongly enough the power of growing your own garden. Vegan, they say, uses 1/3 to 1/6 of the, makes 1/3 to 1/6 of the amount of pollution on this planet, as does a person who eats the standard American diet. Now, who doesn't feel like we need to clean up the planet? And growing your own then adds another additional level where you don't spend gasoline running around to get more things, because it's right there. You walk out, and as Adam T. says, he sees me out in the garden, just pick an ear of corn off and eat it raw, or a pea off of the pea plant, or a carrot, wash it off and eat it. When we have our own food, we are aiding the planetary safety and well-being of the future. So grow a garden if you can in your own yard. You have a little tiny piece of plant and land, and if you don't, grow some things in pots. Grow one tomato plant, one cucumber plant. Those plants will know you and love you and serve you. In fact, I was even taught that if you spit on your seeds before you plant them, or spit in your soil, your seeds and plants learn to know you and what elements your body needs more, and they will actually...
Really? I had never heard that one.
I just learned that this year.
Spit in your garden.
They will actually give you more of the nutrients that you specifically need for your specific DNA and your genetics. Is that beautiful?
That's amazing, because it does have a DNA, and when you think about that, and their knowingness to you, that's really awesome. I really like that.
I do too, and I've done it. I did it with those peas I was telling you about.
You do?
Spit on them.
You spit on your peas? Well, no, the ground.
On the seeds. Not seeds before I planted the seeds. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so
well, I think we're all learning a lot about that. I don't know how many of us have heard that secret, but it is in the DNA. There is a memory. So, boy, that's a lot to think about. We're going to be going out in just a few moments and coming back with more of the secrets of what you're sharing, how we can weed things out. And the sermon, I like to say that we get to be part of the plants in your garden today. Mm-hmm. And we're here with Susan Whiting, and by popular demand, and we're so glad that you have joined us today on the Second Genesis Awakening. Oh, thank you so much, Susan. And it's a pleasure to have you. And so we're going to go out right now, and we'll be right back. And this is the Second Genesis Awakening Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Gruentout, and we're on Dream Vision 7 Radio.
Adam T. Gardner here with the Humanaccelerator.org. Just wanted to let you know we've got a wonder-filled curriculum put together. The website's a gathering place for what's called our We community. We're working to build America's medicine wheels, where you'll be able to sample the most advanced regenerative medicine and lifestyles ever known. But you don't have to wait for us to finish the building in order to begin your adventure into insights and understandings that'll be at our completed cultural center near Zion National Park. You can join the We community for free. We've got over a dozen videos to share about us, about life, about the possibility that mankind now has to live free of all sickness and disease. That's the Humanaccelerator.org. See you there. Adam T. Gardner here with the Humanaccelerator.org, just letting you know we've created what I like to call the B-movie. It'll make you laugh, I promise. It'll make you sigh with relief. It's finally here, this truth whose time has come. We've divided it into segments for easier viewing, which lets you zero in on thoughts you're attracted to, so it can be played over and over during those periods. It's an evolutionary sharing that'll leave you transformed in ways you never could have imagined. Becoming a whole food, whole herb medicine man over a 3-decade period, I share cutting-edge ways of living that'll seem new because of the modern insights we have, yet it's an ancient lifestyle, genetically and epigenetically wired into every cell of the human body. Go to thehumanaccelerator.org and take the ride of your life.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And welcome back to the Second Genesis Radio Show. I'm your host. Hey, Susan, before we went out, you were telling us, sharing with us about spitting on seeds. And
just one more gardening tip for those of you who want to save the planet and your body.
And talking about saving the planet, that is one thing when I met you, that, you wanted to be about our health and reducing the pollution on the planet. And then there's just so much that has been happening. And so you're sharing with us what your day-to-day is with the lessons that you're learning from the plants. So do you have some more for us?
Well, you already know this, and some of your listeners do, but my first degree in university was in medical technology, and I noticed that as we spent all of our time trying to find pathogenic reasons why people were sick and treating them with more medications, that the more medications they got, the more they needed, and it just compounded on itself. And so I talked about compounding, and I changed professions. I went back and got a master's degree in began doing mental health counseling, and then I noticed that it alone was not sufficient. So I looked at whole body, all healing, which really brought me back to the garden, as you know. And I believe that as we look at all these factors together and compound that interest of doing one more good thing, eliminating one more weed, that we begin to grow exponentially, and it is so beautiful. And so I want people to understand that we are a whole being, mind, body, spirit, emotion, mental, and we need to feed all of those systems the way we need to feed our plants. If I don't have any iron in my soil or any nitrogen, it doesn't matter what thing I pick, the plants look poor and they won't produce. And our lives are the same. If we neglect an important period of life or an important part of life, then we will not thrive. And so I would like to have us talk for just a second about the 4 elements, that we need to respect those elements, and then they will respect us and feed us. What we feed feeds us. What we focus on will become greater in our life. And so the earth that you grow your plants in must be fertile. The land where I purchased property did not have any fertility, so we had to bring a lot of things. In fact, one of the best things you can do is take your wet garbage, your banana peels and all of those things that you don't eat, and bury them in your soil and enrich it instead of filling up the landfills. Fill up the garden with more nutrition. And so I have a lot of volunteer plants that come up all over the place in the garden because I'm burying that. So like I might have tomatoes.
I love to see what your new volunteers are. Yeah.
Well, they are more resilient. This is what's really funny. The squash, for instance, that comes back from its own seed, which I have a whole bunch over there right now. I had to thin some out. Will be more resilient against the squash bugs, which is just really interesting.
Oh, tell me more about that. That's been happening. Wow.
You use less pesticides and herbicides and so forth because your plants do part of your work for you, and it's so wonderful.
Oh, I like that.
So have fertile soil.
So then squash bugs, you don't have as many squash bugs because
they don't kill the plant as quickly. What happens is squash bugs will kill a plant very quickly if you're not right on top of it. But there seems to be a resilience with I call them freebies or volunteers that come up from our own seed. And I also then know I'm not getting GMO or pesticide powdered seeds when I grow my own. So I'd love to teach people about that when they come over as well. Anyway,
there's a lot to that, Susan, and knowing that you really, the work you do in your gardens for that humanitarian garden is for those that, you're literally always working to not have any pesticides and to keep it very living, natural. And I just wanted to kind of accentuate that when we're talking about the elements, because the elements don't have to even think about it. They're just free. They're free. Pesticide
so we
free.
compost with leaves and compost from our kitchen and all our own plants from the last year, except for the vine plants. And so making the earth more fertile and more alive, she gives back to you. And then, of course, we have the water, and the world is almost in a crisis for clean water again. And by not taking medications, because we're eating the plant-based medicine, we are not filling the earth with medications either, which is not meant to have. So it's really, it all feeds back together, and it's the circle of life is so beautiful. So we keep our water clean by eating a plant-based diet, which feeds and heals us and keeps us from having to take medication, which we really love.
I absolutely love that. It's it makes me happy when you said that we're not polluting anything on the earth with pills or with that pollution, or to the animals, to every living thing, of the elements. And that's huge, because your food is your medicine. and it's life, and it's there to give everything it has to you with its intelligence and from that plant kingdom that's from the sun,